It was a warm September evening when Bronnie Ware, an Australian palliative care nurse, decided to take her usual evening jog along the beach. The gentle sound of the waves meeting the shore was one of her favorite melodies, a soothing backdrop to calm her racing thoughts after long days assisting terminal patients. But that evening, something about the air felt different, unsettling, heavy. She brushed it off, chalking it up to her exhaustion, and began her jog as the sun dipped low toward the horizon. Bronnie wasn't the extraordinary sort when it came to physical feats. She wasn't there to break records, only to clear her mind. She kept a steady, rhythmic pace, letting the ocean breeze cool her skin as her sneakers met the sand. Midway through her usual route, she noticed a faint stinging in her chest. Nothing to worry about, she thought. She slowed her pace slightly, but the discomfort persisted. Then, out of nowhere, the world around her seemed to tip sideways. A wave of dizziness washed over her. Instinctively, she stopped altogether, holding her hands to her knees for support as her breathing turned shallow. The stinging in her chest wasn't just stinging anymore. It was a sharp, unbearable pain radiating down her arms, gripping her body like a vice. She staggered onto firmer ground, panic starting to set in as her legs trembled under the weight of what was happening. Bronnie collapsed. She could hear it, the frantic yell of a passerby rushing toward her. Their voices sounded muffled, like they were underwater. Every attempt at drawing in breath became more and more punishing to her body. And then, in what seemed like an eternity trapped in pain, her vision blurred as darkness swirled at the edges of her consciousness. She passed out. When she opened her eyes again, she was no longer on the beach. Bronnie was surrounded by unfamiliar faces coated in concern as machines hummed and beeped in harmonic symphony. She had suffered a major heart attack, a silent killer undetected before the collapse. It was a miracle she had survived. The EMTs had worked frantically to stabilize her after one concerned jogger dialed for help. But the brush with death had left Bronnie shaken in a way she didn't immediately understand. In the days that followed, Bronnie lay in her hospital bed, replaying those impossibly fragile moments on the beach. She couldn't shake the feeling that her life, which she had spent striving to care for others, had swept her own health and happiness aside. As a palliative care nurse, Bronnie had witnessed firsthand the regrets that people carried in their final moments. She had spent hours listening to the dying confess their unfulfilled dreams, unresolved conflicts, and missed opportunities to cherish life's simple joys. Yet, in reflecting on her near-death moment, she realized something startling. She was not only listening to those regrets, she was living them. Bronnie had always told herself she was doing noble work, helping others during their most vulnerable and fearful times. But in doing so, she had ignored her own vulnerabilities, burying herself in stress and neglecting her physical and mental health in the process. She hadn't taken the proper time to connect with her friends or family. She hadn't pursued the creativity and passions that had once lit her heart on fire. Her life had been reduced to a grind of what needed to be done, rather than what made her truly come alive. And now, every breath carried the weight of the reality that she may not get a second chance if she fell back into old habits. As Bronnie recuperated, she made a decision that would forever change her life. It wasn't just a promise to herself. It was a plan. She would no longer stay confined by routines that silenced her voice and stripped her days of meaning. She decided she would live with intention, just as she had counseled her patients to do when the preciousness of their dwindling time had finally hit them. Bronnie's journey was just beginning, guided by the wisdom she had gathered and the promise she made to herself to live with intention and heart. When Bronnie returned home, she began making small but significant changes. First, she slowed down. Where once her days had been a storm of back-to-back responsibilities, she learned to carve out space for reflection, self-care, and joy. She started a journal, recording her thoughts daily. Through this practice, she began sorting through the clutter of guilt and stress, uncovering deep-rooted desires she had neglected for years. Finally, one day, she realized writing itself had been one of her truest passions all along. And that's where Bronnie's transformation became a gift, not just for herself, but for the world. As she poured her reflections into words, Bronnie authored a book called The Top 5 Regrets of the Dying. In it, she distilled the wisdom she had gathered from those she had cared for, the lessons learned too late by people who didn't have the luxury of more time. She wrote not only to share their stories, but to challenge others not to repeat their mistakes. Regret number 1? Not living a life true to yourself, but one that others expected of you. Bronnie realized, through her near-death experience, that she had been doing exactly that, sacrificing her truth for societal expectations and imagined obligations. Her book became a sensation. Thousands of people resonated with its haunting yet hopeful message, and it catapulted Bronnie into a life of deeper purpose. A chance not simply to survive, but to thrive. Looking back, Bronnie concludes this life-changing ordeal has taught her one prevailing truth: that our real wealth is our time and our health. Two things that most people only begin to cherish once they're slipping away. She now spends her days in vibrant simplicity, savoring every moment with an open heart. Whether it's through quiet time gazing at nature or meaningful chats with loved ones, Bronnie has committed to living fully present, embracing life's imperfections, and truly appreciating its beauty. Her story is a powerful reminder to all of us. We don't need a brush with death to transform our lives. Every single day, we have the ability to pause and ask ourselves, am I living my truth? Am I showing up for myself, not just for duties or expectations? Bronnie's near-death experience taught her that even the most ordinary moments have extraordinary value, if you let yourself slow down enough to notice them. So, take a breath. A real one. Whether you've got decades ahead, or maybe just a little bit of time to spare, choose to live that precious gift with courage, intention, and heart. Whatever regrets you're holding on to, release them. The time to make a change isn't tomorrow. It's today. As Bronnie herself would say, your life is yours, and what a privilege it is to have it.